Today, we're peeling back the layers of one of the most complicated figures in tennis history, Bernard Tomic. Some call him a wasted talent, others call him arrogant, entitled, even lazy. But today, we're taking a different angle. We're going to talk about why things went the way they did. We're going to show empathy. And maybe, just maybe, we're going to convince you that the story of Bernard Tomic isn't over yet. Let's rewind the tape. Back in the late 2000s, Bernard Tomic wasn't just another junior with potential. He was the next big thing. At just 14, he signed a jaw-dropping deal with Nike, reportedly worth millions. Yonex, Optus, Qantas, they were all in. The message was clear. This kid was special.
So good is Tomic that former Aussie greats are talking about him in reverential tones. Now a coach, Pat Rafter, is a two-time Grand Slam winner and a former world number one.
He's got a little bit of mongrel in him, whether, Nuke always talks about having the mongrel in you. I guess I didn't have a lot of it, but he seems to have a fair bit, and he backs up his sort of attitude a little bit by winning matches as well. And that's a great thing to do. Another person who can do that is Leighton. Few people you never try and tick off, and Leighton was one of those guys because they'll come out and they'll beat you. That's what they do, and he seems to have that going for him.
And on court, he backed it up. He became the youngest player ever to win the Australian Open boys title at just 15. A year later, he added the US Open junior title to his name. His junior record, a stunning 107-26. This wasn't hype. This was history in the making. Tomic made his ATP debut in 2009, and almost immediately he made headlines again, becoming the youngest man to win a match at the Australian Open in the Open era. By 2011, at just 18 years old, he made a fairy tale run to the quarterfinals at Wimbledon, stunning the tennis world. The only other players to do that at his age, Boris Becker and Michael Chang. This wasn't just promising anymore. This was happening. Tomic was a legit contender. The kid from the Gold Coast was now rubbing shoulders with Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal. But while the headlines were glowing, things behind the scenes were getting complicated. Tomic's relationship with his father, John, who was also his coach, started to raise red flags. He was known to be intense, controlling, and in 2013, everything boiled over. John Tomic was arrested after a violent altercation with Bernard's hitting partner, Thomas Drouet, breaking his nose and leaving him bruised. Later, Drouet alleged he had seen John physically abuse Bernard during practice on multiple occasions. The ATP suspended John for 12 months, but the damage? That was already done. A young player, under crushing pressure from his own father, trying to keep his head above water while the whole world watched. Years later, in a candid interview in 2022 with the Sydney Morning Herald, Tomic finally opened up.
His expectations of me as a player was always too high, of being number one and winning 10, 20 Grand Slams. So it was always a lot of pressure thrown on me from my father, and it's not easy. People don't see this outside world of constant pressure. Then there's fans and there's the general public. So all that when it was thrown upon me, it was not easy to handle. I did handle it very well.
Was it ever too much?
Of course, don't get me wrong. I'm still scared of my dad, you know what I mean?
You said you were scared of him. Were you ever abused?
Oh, for sure, he's done many things. He's whacked balls at me, rackets and stuff. The guy's a crazy man, for sure. But he made me who I am today, of course. It was discipline at 100%.
That's trauma. That's what Bernard Tomic carried every time he stepped on a court. Despite all this, Tomic kept grinding. In 2013, he won his first ATP title in Sydney, defeating Kevin Anderson. Then, back-to-back titles in Bogota in 2014 and 2015. In 2016, he reached a career-high ranking of world number 17, making 2 Masters 1000 quarterfinals and his first ATP 500 final in Acapulco against Dominic Thiem. From the outside, it looked like Bernard was finally delivering on his promise. But then, the cracks widened. Injuries, most notably double hip surgery in 2014, a plummeting work ethic, a fractured relationship with Tennis Australia and Davis Cup captain Leighton Hewitt, off-court controversies, match-tanking accusations, and a general sense that he just didn't care. By 2018, he had fallen to number 243 in the world. The tennis prodigy was now a punchline. But let's talk about a turning point, an emotional one. In a revealing interview on the Changeover podcast, Tomic spoke with more clarity and vulnerability than we've ever seen. He didn't make excuses. He acknowledged his flaws. He talked about feeling lost, about being handed the world too early, about struggling to find purpose once the spotlight dimmed. It's a side of Bernard Tomic that the media rarely shows. A young man who grew up too fast, under pressure too big, with scars too deep to ignore.
Of course, no, it's not a good. It's not. I mean, the Australian media is probably the worst media in the world and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I did stuff for sure. That did provoke them and stuff. I wasn't the smartest guy at the town and that period and stuff. But the media, at the end of the day, they want to sell papers. I just lost the hunger and stuff. I got to 23, 24 years old. I made $11-12 million. So I was like, mentally, it was becoming, how can I say, obviously worked really hard when I was young and I missed my childhood and whatever and stuff. But then it got to the stage where, how can I say, it just was like, I didn't feel fulfilled, didn't feel like even the winning on the court, just wanted to be normal, because tennis is a tough sport, traveling. It destroyed me at 24, 25. I was mentally, I didn't want to play. I was just tanking and I couldn't bear the fact that it happened like this for a couple of years. And then, to be honest with you, you need to find yourself whatever keeps you happy, gets you going. I mean, I've obviously matured now compared to when I was 10 years ago, so I see things differently and I know how to react differently now at this stage of my life. But back then, for sure, man, because the tennis is a very isolated sport, very tough sport. You're traveling on your own. You got to give up your whole life, and you're not surrounded by a team. In basketball and soccer, you have teammates that can encourage you, that can help you. Constantly around friends. Tennis, you're on your own. You lose, you're on your own. You got to deal with, going back in the room, feeling bad, being alone, away from friends, away from family. So, I mean, it's a tough sport. Don't get me wrong. If I had chosen tennis years ago, I wouldn't have done this for sure.
Now, we can't skip over this part because it's a recent headline grabbing, and for all the wrong reasons. In 2025, Tomic actually found himself embroiled in a match-fixing controversy, with allegations circling online that his matches have been potentially rigged. It all stemmed from suspicious betting activity picked up by integrity bodies. Now, Tomic has denied the claims, and nothing has been formally proven, but these whispers only add more noise to a career already buried under scrutiny. For fans holding out hope for a comeback, it feels like yet another blow. But here's where things get interesting. While Jannik Sinner and Daniel Medvedev were battling for Grand Slam glory at the 2024 Australian Open, Bernard Tomic was in Chennai, grinding it out at an ITF M25 event, and he won it. He's now being coached by his sister Sarah. He's traveling to obscure venues, playing in front of sparse crowds and putting in the work. In 2023 alone, he won titles in Vegas and Doha. From September 2022 to March 2023, he jumped more than 450 spots in the rankings. I don't think you do that unless you care. Unless you're trying to prove something. not to the haters, but to yourself. So here's the hot take. Bernard Tomic will break back into the top 100. That's right, I said it. It won't be easy. The margins in men's tennis are razor thin. The level is higher than ever. But if Tomic keeps showing this kind of hunger, this kind of love for the game, finally, I think we'll see him in the main draw of a slam again. Maybe even next year's Australian Open. Imagine that. Melbourne Park, a packed crowd, Bernard Tomic back on center court. Tomic's story isn't a neat one. It's messy, painful, and polarizing. But it's also human. He was pushed into the spotlight too young, controlled by a toxic parent, given millions before he could legally drive. He made mistakes, some big ones, but that doesn't mean he can't write a new chapter. So before you judge him as the bad boy of tennis, maybe take a second look. If you like this story, if you believe in second chances, smash that like button. Drop a comment below. Do you think Bernard Tomic will ever return to a slam? And don't forget to subscribe for more raw, honest takes on the world of tennis. See you next time.